Hello, Dreamcatchers, and welcome to The Writer's Haven. I'm your host, B. Helena, and today, as part of our Black History series of films, we are airing part 2 of our 2-part series showcasing the documentary Bates Center of Excellence. From its opening in 1933 to its closing in 1966, Bates High School was the only high school for African Americans in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, serving students in grades 7 through 12. And produced by the Alex Haley KuntaKinte-AlexHaleyFoundation. The documentary features interviews of 15 former teachers of Bates High School as they reflect on the challenges and triumphs in teaching during the integration of public schools in the mid-1960s. I hope you enjoyed part 2 of this extraordinary story.
This was the social hub, I believe, because you have to remember back then what Annapolis was like. Okay. It was a segregated town. We had our own movie theater, okay, the Star Theater. Okay. We had our own YMCA, okay, on Northwest Street, which, okay, is, you know, of course, that's no longer, neither one of those two buildings is still there. And so the activities took place, our little dances. Sometimes we had Friday night dances at the old St. Philip's Hall, yes, up there on, yes, Northwest Street. Yes. And then we had school dances here, you know, down in the cafeteria, okay, or okay, gym, I guess it was. And of course, families always celebrated events. The plays, we had our plays every year. And Villa Taylor, who was a PE instructor, had a dance group, okay, and we had a dance recital every year. Okay. And that was, but this brought the community out. These were things that the community looked forward to, you know, seeing every year, to attending every year. Because this was the only school. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, unless you were from out of town, you did go, and you went to school, here. Okay. And another, I remember another group, not sports, but the drama group by Mamie Glenn was our sponsor. Mm-hmm. It was called the Starlighters. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that was very prominent. Okay. We had lots of members, and they were the ones to put on the annual play every year. But that was really good. And
how was the community involved in Bates during your years?
Well, it was heavily involved there. Number one, because it's the only black high school in the county, and so people were from all northern and southern in the county and right here in the Annapolis area. They were, I would say they had an interest in what the kids were doing there. They had the motivation to find out about it, and so it was an intense community interest in the school. All the types of community activities, school activities that were held were usually well attended by the community there.
So it didn't, there was no way I would have accepted any kid in my class or my homeroom with bad grades. No way. I went to the parents, the kids' home. I would go to the parents' home, and I told the parent, whatever you do, have the student there, because I don't want them to tell you that they didn't. Miss Cole, you ain't got no business going to school. No teacher go to parents. That's how they talk.
It was really a village, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. And they knew me. Some of the parents knew me very well.
Sounds like it was a village, yeah, that really focused on making a difference for the young people.
And if Ms. Cooper said you did it, you did it. The teachers had their teams, and we had our teams, and then whatever kind of, any educational things, the parents were there. I mean, you would think the Orioles were playing.
Bates was a cornerstone of everything that went on in Annapolis. Okay. You know, we had all the social events that they needed. We had all the sporting events that they needed. Bates was just like the hub of everything that went on in the city of Annapolis. And we had, this was a great school. We had science fairs, and we had everything. We had one of the great science fairs that I can remember seeing in school, and I've taught at all since then.
Well, we had activities that included the parents. I remember one time we had operetta.
Okay.
And the parents were very much involved in the costumes and getting children ready for the operetta.
All right.
And we had field day.
All right.
And
Is that a sports day, field day?
yes, you know, that was, and you know, and most the amazing thing I remember about that was wrapping the maypole.
Okay.
You know, the weaving in and out. So that was very good, and everybody was cooperative. You know, they didn't mind helping one another. I said, well, no, well, that's your job. You know, well, you're supposed to do that. If they could help, they helped. Yeah.
Bernice Gibbs
Okay.
probably was. She was very outstanding and had the most outstanding choir. She had a choir, she had a quintet, she had a quartet, and her choir was like 125, 130 people.
Okay. Big.
Big, and they sounded like the Mormon Tabernacle.
Okay.
They were just so superb.
That would be wonderful
And
to hear some of the...
it was just very outstanding. Wherever she took the choir for different contests, she would always win first place.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Was the community, did they see Bates activities as a hub of activity?
Yes, definitely. It was the center of the community.
All right.
And then at one point there was a community cultural arts club program, but it consisted mostly of the teachers, but it used the community. It was called Ebo Arts.
Oh, yes.
All right, so the teachers were the incentive for that.
Okay.
But the plays that we did and stuff like that, that was all the community.
So Ebo Arts was a Bates community endeavor.
Right, and I was one of the founders.
Okay.
This is gonna get you. Downtown, in town, and out town.
Downtown,
In town.
in town,
and out town were all sections of Annapolis. But when people say I went downtown, they knew where you went.
Okay.
And if you say I was in town, they knew where you were.
I'm already lost.
And then if you said I live out town, they knew where you lived.
Okay. So out town maybe was like Parole area?
Yes, it was.
And downtown was near the harbor?
Yes.
And where is in town?
Clay Street.
Okay.
Clay Street in Washington
Okay. All right. Very good. And then, so if I lived in Severn or I lived in Deal, what was I then?
I don't know what you were. You were just Deal or where? Humphrey.
Okay.
No.
All right. All right.
No. Yeah.
It is clear from the records that Bates was an educational powerhouse. The school excelled in sports programs, becoming multi-year champions. It had an extensive extracurricular activity, including science fairs, dance and dramatic performances, and a 200-member choir that could compete at the highest levels with the best performances. Furthermore, the school's academic program was engaging for all students, the college-bound as well as those directing their future towards trades and work careers after completing their education. As one teacher so well put it, failure at Bates was not considered an option. Bates teachers ensured that all students were ready to successfully meet their futures. It was their expectation, and it was reflected in their actions. In fact, the teachers worked to enhance the curriculum. They went over and above, modifying the poor, outdated, and overused material, exposing the students through field trips, personally transporting students to events, ensuring parental involvement, and simply going above and beyond to ensure a successful educational environment. As shared by one teacher, Bates ensured that the school was a beacon of success for all. Like the Hebrew children, these teachers made bricks out of straw. However, their accomplishments were not achieved without overcoming some major challenges. and noted there was a challenge of transportation for the students as well as for the teachers, the lack of appropriate instruction materials, and a long period of lower teacher salaries. These and other challenges would have stopped those less dedicated to their mission. Transportation challenges meant that students encountered long hours traveling to and from home and school, some leaving as early as 6 o'clock in the morning. This limited student participation in extracurricular activities. Also, inclement weather, no buses meant no school. It was estimated that 75% or more of the students at Bates traveled to school by bus. Given these challenges, the staff at Bates had many barriers to overcome. But these teachers had struggles to overcome in their own lives, but successfully they forged ahead. They brought their strengths to their roles as teachers at Bates. Through the unity of the teaching staff, the leadership of the principals, and the support of the parents and the community, the staff created an overcoming spirit that ensured the success for the students and, of course, the school.
Teachers were, by and large, were extremely dedicated, by and large. And they came, well, they were like me. They couldn't get jobs most other places, so a number of them came from Washington and Baltimore, Washington and Baltimore. So there used to be a couple of teachers that would have what are called commuter cars. They would pick teachers up and bring them there. And from Washington, I remember specifically Mr. Baxter, yes, who taught shop. He would always have 3 or 4 teachers, who were regular commuters, yeah, there for them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Experience for kids, and that was, I used to always talk about when I was coaching baseball, and we would go to play in Baltimore City, and believe it or not, travel through downtown Baltimore, and some of the guys had never been to the city. And they were looking up at all the tall buildings, and that's the real truth there. There was an experience for them. Yes, yes. Going through Baltimore City and seeing everything like that.
How long did it take you to get to school?
At least 40 minutes.
40 minutes?
About 40 minutes.
All right. And if you missed that bus, you were in trouble?
Yes, and sometimes the bus wouldn't stop for us when we were coming out of the turn.
Why is that?
They thought we should be at the turn instead of walking to the turn. No, my brother missed the bus. He was 1 year older than I. Okay. He missed the bus, and he started out walking. Right. And he walked as far as from Bates to the South River Bridge. Okay. And he stood there and he just cried. Bless he was heart. Afraid to come across the water.
Bless his heart.
But he had walked from Bates High School all the way. No one offered to give him a ride at all. My parents started looking for him.
And found him.
And they drove towards the school and they saw him as they came across the bridge.
Yeah.
So we went there, but I missed Bates. I missed the children very much, the students I had. Mm-hmm. They were most of them so willing to learn. And those kids who came in on the buses every day were there. Mm-hmm. Now, if the buses didn't run because the roads were bad, they didn't have these super highways they have now. Mm-hmm. So if the weather was bad and it was bad snowstorm or whatever, and the buses couldn't run, we didn't have school.
I taught in town at the old Stanton Center. It was called Bates Junior High School. Well, we had part of the junior high was here at Bates. The other part was in town. And we only had one grade there. That was just the 7th grade. Okay. And we had students at the Stanton Center. We had some students at the First Baptist Church, some students at Wall Street Hall, some students downtown at the Rec Center. And we had classrooms at all those places. Well, we had nowhere to house all the students, so what happened, we simply used those buildings to accommodate the students that we had in our enrollment there. There was only one grade.
Okay. Mr. Butler was my teacher when I was in high school. Okay. But when I came back to teach, Mr. King was the principal then. Okay. Because you know what, that's interesting. Mr. Butler was the principal, but when the folks got together and fought for equalization of schools and so forth, and the board demoted Mr. Butler and got a new principal. That was Mr. King. So
Okay.
when I came back, Mr. King was the principal.
Interesting.
They had demoted Mr. Butler to a teacher because he had fought for equal rights and so forth.
So it was
Right.
not about his training, his experience,
Nothing.
retaliation?
No, just it was just they were. Mr. Butler had fought for equal rights. Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
and they demoted him.
As times changed, so did Bates. With the advent of civil rights, schools in Anne Arundel County were integrated in the mid-1960s. Prior to its closure, Bates had the largest graduating class of 269 students in 1964. Now, when Bates High School closed in 1966, the teachers were reassigned to schools across the county, and the students were relocated to their local or neighborhood schools. Eventually, the facility became Bates Junior High School before it was later closed permanently as an educational center in 1981. However, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, in 2006, the entire location was renovated and became the current Bates Legacy Park. However, during this period of change, the challenges, as many as they were addressed and overcome by the Bates teachers. Their abilities, qualifications, and professionalism shone through. For these teachers, Maya Angelou's poem, "And Still I Rise," rings very true. The former teachers rose to prominence.
Well, June 1966, Mr. Hood calls all in the library, which is where Legacy Center is located.
And he was the principal?
Yeah, Mr. Hood was the principal. He gave us all our assignments. And I think it was like 2 days before school closed. He said, well, I'm going to give you the name of this school. You can go by. We really didn't know where they were. And you can go by and look at your schools for next year. So that's how we got our assignments.
So everybody received notice sometime in the spring that you were going to be reassigned? And how did you know you were going to be reassigned?
No. We got assigned about 2 days before school, before the school year.
You didn't know?
We didn't know.
Before then that
No.
you wouldn't be coming back to Bates?
No.
That was a shock,
We
wasn't
used,
it?
because some people stayed here.
Okay.
Some people stayed here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But most of them moved?
Most of us scattered throughout the county. Now,
That must have been a tearful meeting.
well, it was for some. One thing that I found out when I went to teach at Arundel Junior High School, it was that we were as well prepared as any of the other teachers, for instance, the white teachers at those other schools. We were well prepared. And Mr. King and Mr. Wiseman and Mr. Hilliard, they taught us well.
That's wonderful. And you didn't know that until you moved?
Didn't know. But we were well prepared.
But 1965, they had started integration, and they asked for a corps of teachers who would like to go for sensitivity training. And this was put on by TAC, the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County. And I volunteered as one of the corps teachers to go down for sensitivity training. And that took about half a year, but I was still teaching, but I was going for sensitivity training. So I was allowed time to go learn how to get along once we did the total desegregation. Okay. But of course, at that time, Bates was the only Negro school in the county, and all the children from South County to North County came to Bates. I think about 75% of the population rode buses, and about 25% were from the city.
That's a lot of transport.
20 to 30 miles one way each day. When the sessions I went to were only for African American teachers.
All right.
So I don't know whether they had them for the other teachers or not.
Okay, and was there any transition training for students at all, or was it just the teachers?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
So the students had to
Just go into the new.
It's like jumping and
I think
swim.
they did. I think they did. I really don't recall because I was in that during that time frame, and I don't remember any offers for transition for the students.
Where did you get your support from when you went into your first integrated school environment? Was it the
Well, I
teachers
guess
there? Were there teachers from Bates that went with you? I mean, what was your support
there were
system?
5, I believe, of us that went from the Stanton Center.
Okay.
So, you know, I knew them, but they were in different, it was such a large building.
All right.
But I did develop, you know, a real good relationship with Mr. Clifton Brown
Okay.
and a couple of the teachers. But I pretty much winged it on my own for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I developed some relationships. And I started, like I said, I started the after school clubs.
Okay.
And I got some of the children involved. And that way the parents, you know, became more agreeable.
Okay.
But it was kind of rough at first.
How long did the transition take you?
Well, I would say Annapolis Junior High was rather trying time.
Okay.
For all of us. And then the, I don't know, then when I moved to South County, it was totally different. Because that was better,
Okay.
greatly improved.
Okay, greatly
Because
improved.
those rural area,
Okay.
and believe it or not, they were congenial, the parents and the children. I didn't have any problems.
And I used as many films from the Board of Education that showed us as inventors and, you know, doctors and, you know, doing great things. So they would have some idea, you know, not just slavery was prevalent, but
We contributed.
right,
Yeah.
we contributed to the growth of these United States.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So those people who were still diehards couldn't say anything. One case, 6 girls got up and left. They went to the office. I said, good, go ahead. I know they marched themselves back in there.
So what was their concern?
They didn't want to look at these, Dr. Haley and all these inventors,
Okay.
black.
Okay.
They didn't want to look at them.
Okay.
So they got up and left. The principal sent them back. I don't know what she said to them, but I know I didn't have any trouble with them after that.
Okay.
No, I didn't have any trouble. They sat there and looked, they took the notes, whatever they were supposed to do, and we got along fine after that.
In the black community, educators were next to the pastors, the ministers. Those were the 2 key individuals. So every child, I think, came to school understanding that these are going to be the people that are going to help you. And you know, you have the responsibility of listening and cooperating. And I know that, you know, sometimes the debate comes up, were we better when we were all black school or with integration? I think that from a global point of view, integration had to come, but it came with a price.
The teachers from Bates are clearly described by the words in Maya Angelou's poem, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. I am the dream and the hope of the slave, I rise. As the world changed around them, the teachers from Bates showed what they really had in them, what they created for us, a center of excellence. The excellence of Bates teachers shone through wherever and whenever they were placed. While they were at Bates, we had an invaluable treasure that made a difference in the lives of multiple families and, of course, generations. We all owe a gratitude of thanks to these teachers. The community thanks you. The students from Bates thank you. And, of course, I thank you. God bless.
There is a school that we love so well. It's Bates, dear Bates. What in whose name all our hearts still thrill. It's Bates, dear Bates. All glory God now may we sing, and to our God all our laurels bring. Bates, we sing of thee, yes, sing of thee. To our tenets we are true, our time with you we'll never shall rue, so our hearts turn fondly to you. Within our hearts they're saying, for we know all thy worth and sing of thee.
I hope you enjoyed the final chapter of this two-part series. For information about the foundation, you can visit their website at www.KuntaKinte-AlexHaleyFoundation.org. You can also view this series on our YouTube channel at The Writers Haven Show with V. Helena. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, catch fire on purpose.
Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. Yeah, Dad. We're getting so wet.